Morning, guys. It's impossible what I'm doing right now here every single day. And this is from a guy who doesn't believe in the impossible. The reason why I say that to you is that this thing is so powerful. I've gotten to a point in my life where I've had enough. I am tired of seeing this thing be my own worst enemy. And I know we can turn it around and flip it and make it work for us. So my one word, determination, that's the energy, the thing that's within all of us. I want you to find the determination within you. By me opening myself up like this authentically every single day, doing my best to show the power of my mind and the impact in my life, I want you to understand that whatever you're going through, any challenge, anything that gets you emotional, that gets you upset, you can flip it. You can turn that darkness into the greatest light. Have a great day, everybody.
How do you deal with failure? And what's your advice to young entrepreneurs like me in this case, especially with regards to failure and how to approach it?
Yeah, well, if you fail, you really do dust yourself off and get right back in. I mean, you're going to fail at some things. You're going to have some human relationships that don't work out. Fairly significant number of people get divorced. I mean, that's a very big decision to have turn out badly. But I think if you study almost everybody and read Kay's book, Personal History, and everybody fails at some things. I mean, particularly when you're younger. I mean, you do have less experience in evaluating humans and just knowing about whatever it may be businesses. But it is not fatal. I mean, if you're healthy and you live in this, particularly living in this country, there's going to be an opportunity that comes along. I got turned down for the Harvard Business School when I got out of the University of Nebraska. And I remember, I went to Chicago to get interviewed. This is when you traveled on the train. And so I spent 10 hours going there. And this fellow looked at me, and about 10 minutes, he said, forget it, Bell. And now I got to go back on the train 10 hours and think, what am I going to tell my dad? What am I going to tell my dad? I mean, my dad always told me I could do anything and everything. Now I've just gotten turned down. But it turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me, because then I went to Columbia, where Ben Graham was. In fact, it probably even affected who I married, because I took a one-year course at Columbia instead of 2 years at Harvard, and she went and found some other guy during that time. And almost everything in my life that looked like a failure has either usually it's turned into a success. I mean, the world isn't over. If you have bad luck in health, that's tough. I mean, there's just no getting away. I've been lucky on that. But the other kind of things, if you're healthy and you're bright and you've got decades ahead of you, if something goes wrong, if you find yourself working for the wrong employer and they're doing things you don't approve of, or they're not treating you fairly, the world isn't over yet. You just go out and find somebody else.
You're not afraid of failing. You're afraid of failing in front of other people. You will sing in the shower, but you won't sing on the street corner. Why? Because of other people, because they may see you, because they may laugh at you, because they may say, look at that person, they're so dumb, right? You're not afraid of failing, not just by yourself. You're afraid of failing and who is going to watch. And so that becomes really important, because it now means you're living your life based off of other people's expectations and judgments. And maybe that's people in your own family, maybe that's people maybe that's your mom, or maybe that's random people. You're afraid of the judgment of unknown YouTube commenters leaving some kind of feedback on your video telling you how much you suck, right? We're afraid of the people that we care deeply about and their perspective and opinions on us, and we're also afraid of the people who we don't know yet, who are just out there in the world, on the internet, who might come and leave negativity on whatever you're going to be creating. So you're not actually afraid of failing. You'll do it all the time, but it's failing and who is going to see us fail. And so there's a lot to unpack inside of that. Let's start with, what is your big goal? What do you want to accomplish? What mission are you on? Who are you trying to serve? Who are you trying to help? And in order for you to go off and accomplish those things and serve to your highest capability, you're going to have to do things that will be scary, where you're going to risk failure, right? If you are never risking any kind of failure, then you're living your life so small and so safe that you don't like your life. If there's nothing in your calendar in the next month that you are excited by, that your heart's getting, you're scared, right? You're nervous, right? You're like, oh my gosh, that thing's happening. If there's nothing in your calendar that's like that, you don't like your life. That's honestly most people. You're just photocopying your same life over and over and over and over and over again. That's what most people wake up and do. I'm sitting here in the Costco parking lot, right? Like most people, you just wake up and you're photocopying the same day you had yesterday and last week and last year. And that's not a life. So you have to be willing to risk some kind of failure, which would potentially risk how other people see you and judge you. I used to not be able to record videos like this. I remember the first video I ever recorded in public was I was walking down the street at my old house, and I was challenged by my agent. He said, you have to record videos in public. Like, Steve, make videos in public? Are you crazy? I can barely make videos at home. I'm going to now make them in public? He's like, you have to do it. Like, okay, great. So I'm walking down the street, carrying my big video camera at the time, and I made sure I picked a really quiet section of the street where nobody was usually outside, because it made me feel like I was recording the video and doing the task, but there was nobody around, so I wasn't really doing the task. And I remember there was a male woman who was dropping off mail, and as soon as I saw her and I felt like I was in auditory range of her, then I pulled the camera down, and then as I passed her, I started filming again. It's like, I did the assignment, Steve. Look, I filmed outside. I didn't really do the assignment. Why? Because I'm afraid of a male woman's opinion of me. Like, she doesn't even care about me. She's living her life, doing her thing. And so something like this, now I'm sitting here in a parking lot filming, and people are walking by, and some people are watching, like, what's this guy doing? You just keep going. You just keep making, because fear of other people's judgments cannot be a good enough reason for you to play small. Not anymore. If you want to do great things, most of the people judging you don't like their own lives, and any judgment they have of you is just a reflection of self. So there's a couple of hacks that I've used to be able to get through it that might serve you. Number one is studying successful people. And anytime you study successful people, you find out that they failed along the way to their success. A lot of times you may just see on the surface just their accomplishments and list of what they've done and all that, and it can feel imposing. You know, how are they so perfect and I suck and I have all these fears and insecurities? But if you look deeper into their story and maybe watch some of their interviews or videos, you'll see that they struggled a lot and they had multiple failures on their path to success. And I used to, before my channel came out, I used to read stories of different famous entrepreneurs and how they got started, and, you know, the kind of 0 to 1 story, because it made me feel like it was possible. That looking at Warren Buffett now is crazy. You know, it's like he's done so much, you can't relate. But how did he go from 0 to 1? And what did he struggle with? And where did he fail? That was inspiring to say, hey, okay, if he could get through that, now me, decades later, with a lot more opportunity and technology and resources, and I could do that. You know, I could do something similar. So that inspired me to get out of my cocoon and to be around people who are doing amazing things. Inspired me to want to go off and do more. It's also why I make videos like this, so that you can learn from Warren Buffett and all the people that we profile. Yeah, because I think the more that you're around that, the more you'll win. I don't know Warren Buffett personally. You probably don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you can text him and ask for advice. I can't, not yet. But I can watch his videos and I can learn from him, and I can get better and I can improve myself by being around him. And the more that I watch his videos, the more I can think like him, just a little bit. And that's important, because that shifts you forward. So being around more successful people will shift you towards success, even if they are virtual, through a computer screen, through videos, podcasts, books, etc. The second thing is teaching myself that I do difficult things. And I think that's really important. We've accepted fear as a good enough reason for you not to do the thing. You've accepted other people's opinions as a good enough reason for you not to do the thing. My trigger words, I call them play bigger triggers. You come up with the triggers that will allow you to play bigger. So if I say scary, difficult, or hard, then I go off and do it, because I want to be the person who does the things that are scary, difficult, or hard to myself. And that's why I still make videos. That's why I'll write books and speak on stage. I find all of those things incredibly scary, difficult, and hard. So what is it for you? And when you can stop accepting scary, difficult, or hard as a good enough reason, like I want to do it, but I'm scared. Okay, well, that's not a good enough reason. You've already you've pre-decided that that's not a good enough reason, so you have to go off and do the thing. So scary, difficult, hard. You say it, you write it, you think it, you tell somebody else it. As long as that is the reason for you to put the brakes on your life, it's not a good enough reason anymore. There has to be something stronger than scary, difficult, or hard. Otherwise, you have to go and take action. And you start to teach yourself that you are the kind of person who takes on things that are scary, difficult, and hard. So number one was being around successful people and study them and learn from them and get mentorship from them, even if it's just through a video. Number two is that you do difficult things. And then number three is focus on service. And if you understand that the thing that you're afraid to do is not just for you, it's for other people, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to create a business, it's not just for you. There's selfish goals of I want to make money and provide for my family and live a great life, etc. But above that needs to be service and helping others, that you're creating something that's going to bring value to other people, that it's not just about you making money, but you're providing a real service, something really valuable to other people that's going to make their life better. If I'm making videos, it's not just about me and numbers on the channel, it's about you. And hopefully for one of you watching this video, it has a big impact today. When I speak on stage or write the books, it's not about me, it's about who I can help serve. And whenever you can deeply connect to who you can help serve, at least for me, it gives me the courage to go off and do the thing. If I'm terrified to speak on stage, I'll often look behind the curtain at the audience and I'll try to find a couple people. It's like, I'm doing it for that person, I'm doing it for him, I'm doing it for her. I've got a message that I can share that can help them. And that gives me the confidence and the courage to go do the thing, because we'll show up for other people more than we'll show up for ourselves. And so when you can tie what you're doing to other people, to value, to service, to helping them, it'll give you more confidence and courage to go off and do the thing that you need to do. And so I call that the push and the hug. So the I do difficult things, I do scary things is the push. Like, get out there and do this, Carmichael, let's go. And the service is the hug. Like, hey, I'm not doing this just for me, I'm doing it for all the people out there as well. And some days you need more of the hug, some days you need more of the push. And you just lean in on what you feel you need most. You know, there's some days when pushing yourself harder is not the answer, you need a hug. And there are some days where hugging yourself more is not the answer, you need the push. And so having the self-awareness to know, okay, I need the push right now, or I need the hug right now, and then going off and doing that will give you the momentum that you need. Failure is going to happen. And the biggest failure, again, is the fear of other people seeing you fail. And as long as you live your life by the expectations of other people, you will live small forever. And if you can flip it to say, I'm doing this to help others. I'm doing this because I want to live a great life. And I'm doing this because I do difficult things. When you can make that shift happen, you start to accomplish your goals.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Morning, guys. In our top 10 rules for success today, Jack Ma shares with us his rule number 5. which is get inspired. This is so important. For me, every single day, I wake up in the morning and my mission is get inspired, set my mind so that I can help as many people as possible, including myself. Now, Jack Ma gives us the example of how he would watch movies. He would see different scenes in movies and they would inspire him. So he was inspired by Whitney Houston in the movie The Bodyguard and the speech that she made, or the way she sang. So he was inspired by how she put her heart into it. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I want you to do. Whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want in your life, you got to get inspired. I'm so passionate about this because it worked for me. It has saved me. It is transforming this into the most positive thing it can be for everyone. So I hope you get inspired every day. Have a great day, everybody.
One thing that I've done since I was 25 years old is learn how to set goals, put them in place, and then manifest them over periods of time in my lifetime. If you go back and listen to the Rules of Success, that I shot that show in, I think I was 36 years old in La Jolla, California. I was living on the ocean then, and you can go back to that. You can look in the 10X rule. When I wrote the 10X rule, I shared a bunch of goals. That was 11 years ago. You can see over the last 25 years, every single goal that I have set for myself, up to this point anyway, I have been able to achieve. My wife, my 2 beautiful kids, the condition that my body's in today, my finances, the real estate, all of it started with goals. All of it started with the idea that was in my mind and had not yet been manifested in reality. I heard a saying once, Barbara Streisand said that there was not one thing in her career that she had accomplished. Tips on writing goals. Number 1, write them down every day. In fact, what I do is I write mine down on a blank sheet of paper. I write them down in the AM, I write them down in the PM, and I also write them down anytime I'm disappointed or discouraged. Okay, so I could actually write my goals down more than twice a day. Always in the AM, always in the PM. First thing I do in the morning, first thing I did today was I wrote my goals down. Second thing, what I'll do before I go to sleep tonight is write my goals down. It could be on the same legal pad. Second thing, I write them down in present tense, in PT. Present tense or even past tense or past, okay? So I may write it as though I have accomplished it. What you don't want to do is write it down, one day I will love my job, okay? You want to write down, I love my job. Even if you hate your job right now, just like flip it, I love my job, okay? I love my wife and kids. I didn't have a wife and kids. My kids love me. I didn't have any children, okay? I wrote it down as though it was happening. Okay, write your goals down whether or not you're achieving them or not. It doesn't matter that you're achieving them, okay? This is going to sound a bit like you're deceiving yourself, which is what you're doing. You're writing down the future as though it's happening today and or has happened. Number 4, strongly suggest that you go 10 times bigger on your goals than you think what is accomplishable. Okay, I say go big or go bigger, baby. Okay, go big or go bigger. There is nothing wrong with big think. It doesn't cost anything. Okay, you can't get taxed for thinking big. And it's not just, okay, I'm going to dream big and big things are going to happen. Okay, I am going to write down, hey, I'm trying to achieve X in my life. I'm trying to go from here to 10 times bigger than I can think. Okay, during the day, I'm going to take the actions that support that when I write this down every day. Number 5, do not be disappointed in not achieving, just keep writing. Just because you're not hitting it, just keep writing it. I wrote down off and on from time to time, I wrote down for years.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Grant Cardone, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, get rid of poverty mindset.
My dad worked his ass off, and when he died, he did good. My mom had to sell everything. And so I'm like, okay, that didn't work. But he was considered successful, the middle class successful, briefcase, good job, professional, people respected him, saved his money, had life insurance, house was paid for, everything by the book. And she was unloading stuff the next week because she was terrified. And so from the age of 10 to like 16, 17 years old, we were just scared, dude. Clipping coupons, buying everything on sale, single mother. Everywhere she goes, she knows they're going to rip her off. The plumber, the roofer, the car dealer, everybody's going to rip her off.
Right.
So she thought. Save your money, save for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, a penny saved is,
Right.
Yeah.
A penny earned. It's not.
it's a penny.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a penny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a penny, dude.
Yes.
You won't even pick a penny up today.
You ain't with a penny.
Dude,
Yeah.
you know, 50 cent?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That's 50 pennies.
yeah.
Rule number 3, take a long-term view.
The third thing I would say about wealthy people is different people have different ways they invest, but they tend to be more focused on the long-term appreciation of an asset rather than give me money this second. And I think they're not stuck in this get rich quick thing.
It's a delayed gratification.
Yeah, they're more like, yeah, I'd rather have wealth tomorrow than rich today. And they do have a distinction between the rich and the wealthy. The super wealthy are looking to create wealth beyond their own means and needs. Like they're not thinking about their kids, their boat, their plane. I know people think that, but that's not actually true. They're actually thinking about how do I create wealth for a lot of people. Amazon's got 1 million employees.
Yeah.
Now, most of them only earn minimum wage, but there's some people at the upper level of Amazon that are making fortunes.
Rule number 4, strive for success.
Success is vital. Maybe you've heard me say this before. It's worth writing down again. Success is your duty. It is your obligation and your responsibility. Success to me is as vital to my survival as oxygen, food, and water. Shelter. I got to have shelter. I got to have water. I have to have oxygen. I need food, okay? I need love in my life, okay? I need people. I need human interaction, and I also need to win. If you don't have success in your life, you will lose discipline, you will lose activity, you will lose contacts, and you will not be consistent. You will not have them. This is the vital part of success. This is why I'm pounding to you. The only trick in this universe, if there is a trick at all, is you must be successful. Success is not an option. It is your duty. It is your obligation. It is your responsibility. 2022, if it's going to be good for you and your family, if it's going to be great for you and your family, it is because you demand success this year. And that means you demand success in your relationships, in your finances, and in your money and in your business.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, invest your money.
What should you do with your money?
Well, like saving money in a bank account is ridiculous. The only people that benefit is the bank.
So wait, what do you do with the money then?
You use money. First thing people should invest in is themselves. Like,
Best thing is people hear that and they go, what does that mean though? What do I do with the money?
go to workshops, go to seminars, go to whatever you're good at, whatever you're doing. You're an astronaut, invest in yourself. If you're an athlete, invest in yourself. Don't spend money on belts
Yeah.
and looking good. Like invest in your craft. You're a comedian, invest in your craft. And that means investing in your skills, coach, whatever, podcasts, whatever needs to get you known, right? And then also in your branding and your marketing. Like people have to know you, no matter how good you are. If I don't know you, it doesn't matter.
Right. So you got to get out there.
Yeah. How did you guys run into me?
How'd I run into you?
Yeah. How'd you find
Instagram.
out about me?
Instagram.
Good. I invested a lot of money making sure that people see that Instagram account, right?
Right.
So, or energy, money and energy.
Right.
So invest in yourself first to become great at whatever you're doing. Number 2, start investing in your business if you hadn't done that already. And the third thing is start investing in things that'll pay you every month. So you buy a flow of income.
Rule number 6, have the right contacts.
This idea that it takes money to make money is not true. It's a myth. It's the number one reason why I did the show, the Discovery Show, to debunk that on TV, that I didn't need any money at all. They offered me $100. I'm like, just keep it, dude. Like, no, we got to give it to you. It's part of the show. And I'm like, I don't need the 100. They're like, no, but you got to take the 100. It's part of the show. The entire 90 days, I never touched the first 100 they gave me. And this was to prove to people, dude, you do not need money. Like, it's not true you need money. You do need contacts.
You need people. You need relationships.
You need people. You need the right people, though. The right people that are already in play. Okay? Just because a guy's got money. I remember a billionaire friend of mine, he could buy a jet. And I said, hey, Bob, should I buy a jet? He said, you should, I shouldn't. Meaning Grant should, and he's way wealthier than I am. He could have bought 40 of them. He's like, I don't have a place to go in mine. You could use yours every day. So you got to find somebody that's in place, somebody that not just has money, but somebody that wants to do more with their money. So you'll notice in the first 10 days, I don't spend any money. I don't spend money on shelter, not on food, and not on water. Nothing. Then what I do is I end up accumulating assets. And it's unfortunate that the viewer doesn't see this. Within 5 days, I have 2 vehicles. One was given to me by Discovery, and the other one was a $40,000 Jeep that I basically used from Ryan, this guy I met, and told him, I'm going to sell your Jeep. I'm going to drive it around town and put 10 miles a day on it, and I'm going to sell it. Well, that's a $43,000 asset. My truck was worth $4,000. I still had my $100. I lived in a $46,000 RV that I was trying to sell. So,
yeah.
What's the other thing I did? And I picked up $10,000 to do in a 15% partnership in the equity of the upside of this guy's company. So literally in 10 days, I was accumulating contacts that could get me equity. And the important part of that story is, man, go get you some equity. Jay-Z talks about this. You're getting, so many of you young brothers are getting an advance while I'm picking up the equity.
Rule number 7, show up.
Showing up means showing up. It don't mean you got to the office. You understand? It doesn't mean you came to work. For me, showing up means I show up. I've been showing up since I was 25 years old, man. Before that, I wasn't showing up. I was showing off. I was acting a fool, being a fool. High school, I didn't show up. I went to class. I never showed up. My body went in the room. See, showing up doesn't mean you got there. Showing up means you got there, and then you showed up again, and then you showed up again, and then you showed up again. It means you show up for the class, you show up for the homework, you show up for the class, you show up for the homework, you show up for the test, you freaking get a perfect grade. It means you keep showing up to the next level. And I hear a lot of people talking about showing up. Showing up's not everything. Let me tell you something. Showing up, when you show up the right way, Johnny, you got to put your seatbelt on. When you show up the right way, showing up is 100% a success. So you got to keep showing up. Showing up means you're looking for deeper levels to show up, to pay attention. That's what I do every day. Every day I come to work, I'm like, show up, man. Show up for every little problem. Show up for every little opportunity. Show up for every little nuance, little angle, little particle, little movement. That's why I see all this stuff. Why is that not cleaned up? Why is this not cleaned up? Why did somebody pick that up? Who's that new person here? Hey, you feeling all right today? How many times have I asked you that before? You all right today? I know it's the little things. It's simple. It costs nothing to do this. Show up. It costs you nothing. It makes all the difference. And it makes all the difference, man, showing up. You'll see things that no one else sees. And you know, the good news is anybody can do this. You just got to make a commitment to show up.
Rule number 8, surround yourself with success.
The reason the guys on Wall Street and the gals on Wall Street make so much money, okay, is not because they're like capitalists and they're terrible people. It's because they're surrounded by people that are making money, man. They're accountable by their stock price. They're accountable to their production. They got people around them that expect them to win and do well. And also they're going to dinner, waking up at breakfast, working out in the gym with other people that are winning big in life. Okay. So you need feedback from your environment and your network. Fifth thing you need is you got to have a network of people that are encouraging you to kill it. You got to have the right network. You got to have a LeBron in your game, man. If you're playing in the NBA and LeBron's like, I'm going to take you under my wing, bro. Okay, Kobe's like, hey, man, I'm coming back to be with you, man. What, would you deny that? Okay, Michael Jordan, I want to be with you, man. Tiger Woods, I want to golf with you. Come on, guys. What are you doing? You cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. Are you kidding me, man? Let's say you want to be a surgeon, and a top surgeon in the world is like, I want to take you under my wing. What are you going to be? I'm too busy.
Rule number 9, be innovative.
If you're reading a book, okay, you're listening to music, going to an event, speaking at an event. Let's say you're speaking at an event and it's the 700th time you did that presentation. You got to show up new again. Johnny comes to work with his camera, and we're doing a show today. Johnny needs to show up new, looking for new angles, new colors, you got to show up every day new, folks. You're new, man. You're new. Ladies and gentlemen, you're new. Every day you're new. Or, guess what? You're old. Nobody wants old. I don't want to get old. I don't want stale. I don't want yesterdays. I don't want leftovers. I know when somebody's repeating something rote. They're just giving me the same. I don't mind some bullshit, but it's got to be fresh. I need some fresh bullshit. So I don't mind a little bit of bullshit. I just don't want the same thing. Okay, that guy's told that story 1,000 times, and it looks like the thousandth time. Not in a good way either.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is don't get stuck in mechanics.
Last thing I'm going to tell you is this, okay? Don't get stuck in mechanics. When I'm writing my goals down, I do not know how I'm going to do it. So I merely sit down. Like I remember for years I would write down, I own a helicopter. I don't even know where this concept came from. I own a helicopter. I own a helicopter. I own a helicopter. Every once in a while it would show up. It would show up on a Wednesday and not show up for when I'm writing my goals down, right? So I'm waking up in the morning. I wake up in the morning and I write my goals down. And one day I write, I own a helicopter. I think back then it was, I learned how to fly a helicopter, okay? It was stupid. It was completely ridiculous. I'm like, where did that come from? It just kind of floated into my mind. I wrote it down. Okay, I own a jet. I'm like, man, I'm just being stupid right now. I own a jet and 2 helicopters. I don't know how that happened. I didn't know anything about jets. I would not achieve any of this, by the way, until I was 53 years old, 54 years old. The first private jet I was ever on was the one we bought. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how they fly. I didn't know how they work. I didn't know what the cost of a hangar was. I know nothing. Don't get lost in the mechanics. I didn't know the fuel cost. I didn't know what it cost to buy one. Do you finance them? Do you pay cash? Do you get a tax rate? I knew nothing when I started writing this down. The helicopter would come after the jet. Okay, I bought a helicopter. I didn't know why. So the point of that story is, when you're writing your goals down, literally sit down with a blank sheet of paper. First thing you wake up in the morning and you just start zip, 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 zip. You write through them. Like this morning I wrote down 40 billion in real estate. Okay, public. I write down one word. I'm going public. See, I know now that this is in present tense and or past tense. I write it in present or past tense. I'm going public. Okay, I wrote down recently a congressional hearing. People are like, what's a congressional hearing? Dude, I'm so big now, they called me into Congress. They're going to have a congressional hearing. They're going to drill me, okay? Oh, yeah, then I wrote this down. A political office. Now, I don't know why.
I don't know why I'm writing that down. I don't know how to achieve that. I don't know what it would mean. I don't know what it looks like. I don't get stuck in the mechanics. Don't worry about it.
Commit first.
Commit first, man. Just keep committing it, keep fueling it, keep writing it down.
Good morning, guys. I want to share a funny story with you again. Yesterday with my students, every day we try to work on the power of our mind, try to show kids the positive power of their choices. Yesterday I had said something and this made me laugh because this is where we got to watch our words carefully, especially with kids. I love kids. They are so innocent. They are going to say it like it is based on what they hear. So yesterday I made a comment about you lose when you make a decision that doesn't bring out your best. You lose the best part of yourself. And then one of the kids said, does that mean so-and-so is a loser? And I said, no. I said, everyone's a winner, including you. We just haven't learned how to win in every decision we make. So every decision we make is a choice that shows that we're winners if it's a winning decision. But I had to be so careful because I wasn't calling the kid a loser. They lost in that decision. They got it after, but it was powerful. Have a great day.
Your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this podcast has created the present personal reality called their life. So if you believe what I just said, then in order for you to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. In other words, nothing changes in your life until you change. That's the way it is. So it turns out that 90% of the thoughts that we think on a daily basis are the same thoughts as the day before. Same thoughts lead to the same choices. Same choices lead to the same behaviors. Same behaviors create the same experiences. The same experiences produce the same feelings and the same emotions. And those same feelings and emotions begin to influence our very same thoughts. And our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, our gene expression, our immune system, all stay the same because we're staying the same. So then there's a principle in neuroscience that says that nerve cells that fire together, wire together. You keep thinking the same thoughts, you keep making the same choices, you keep doing the same things, you keep creating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same exact patterns, all for the reaffirming of the same feeling, and you do that for 10 years on end, the firing and wiring of those circuitries begins to hardwire the brain into a very finite signature. That box in the brain that's created is the same level of mind. And if you keep doing that, it becomes automatic. And it turns out that 95% of who we are by the time we're in the middle of our life is a set of memorized behaviors, automatic emotional reactions, constant habits, hardwired attitudes, beliefs, perceptions that have happened just because we've just fired and wired it the same way. So there's a good possibility then, in order for us to change, we better start thinking about what we've been thinking about and change it. We have to become conscious of our unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them. We got to look at these feelings that we feel every single day, and instead of just thinking it's a feeling, say, what is this? Is this guilt? Is this sadness? Is this unhappiness? Is this pain? Is it frustration? Is it resentment? What is the feeling that I'm living by the majority of my day? Now, that's lighting a match in a dark place. In neuroscience, it's called metacognition. The word meditation means to become familiar with. That's what it means. So the more familiar with you are, I can't, it's too hard, I'm never going to change, it's my ex's fault, it's my boss's fault, it's my country's fault, it's the government, it's the weather, it's my pain, whatever that thought is that you accept, believe, and surrender to on a daily basis that's automatic, you have to become so conscious of that unconscious thought that it doesn't slip by your awareness unnoticed. You got to catch yourself saying, I'm tired, I'm unhappy, it's someone else's fault. Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you make excuses? Do you feel sorry for yourself? That personality has to change in order to create a new life. So then you have to become so aware of your unconscious habits that you don't go unconscious to them in your waking day. Then you got to sit in the fire of those emotions. And you got to watch those emotions come up, and you have to sit with them and know that there's something on the other side of them. Now, this is where most people get up and say, I can't meditate, or I'm going to call up my friend, or I'm going to get on social media and make a post. I'm going to turn on the football game. I'm going to get distracted because I need something out there to make this go away. And what we're saying is we're not relying on anything out there. That's the hypnosis. That's the conditioning. We want you to just become so familiar with that feeling that you catch yourself in your waking day. The moment you start feeling sad and your energy drops, you catch yourself. So there's an unlearning process, or a breaking the habit of being the old self process that requires a lot of attention, a lot of awareness, and it takes energy. You gotta stay conscious.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today let's learn from one of the best, Joe Dispenza, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, envision a better future.
If you think about great leaders in history that changed the course of many different cultures, what they did that was so important is they had a vision of that future. And they were able to have other people come out of their resting emotional state and begin to see that vision that they were seeing and move them into an elevated emotional state. And when they changed their energy, those people could share that same vision. Well, if you combine a clear intention and an elevated emotion, those two ingredients change people's state of being. Now the person is just moved biologically from living in the past to living in a new future in the present moment. And that's what caused millions of people to begin to make different choices, to behave differently, to do different things. And if you get enough people doing that because of mirror neurons, everybody's observing everybody do it, and you create a collective consciousness. And great leaders have the ability to, based on the core principles, whether it's justice or freedom or equality, to have people see that same vision and then move them out of their resting state into an elevated emotion. And then when they do that properly, those people can see that vision. If you can't change a person's energy, they'll never see that vision because they'll be viewing the future through the lens of the past, the emotions of the past. And so great leaders have the ability to have people begin to see the same vision.
Rule number 3, move forward from your past.
If your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, and it is, yes or no, and you stop thinking the same way, and nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together, every place where one neuron connects with another neuron is called a memory. So as you begin to unfire and unwire, you prune the very circuits in your brain that are connected to the old self. And the memory of the old self begins to mutate, begins to change. So then you would say, where is that memory stored? And it's stored in the soul now as wisdom, because you're no longer that person. Yes or no? And if you could no longer behave the same way, and nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together, and pruning is part of biology, you don't use it, you lose it, then your memory of the old self would begin to change. And that is a biological death in the beginning that is uncomfortable for a lot of people. If you're no longer feeling the same emotions that keep you connected to the past, and you keep inhibiting that process, the body will be craving the chemicals in the beginning because it's been conditioned that way. It's been addicted. It's the mind. And it's anticipating events and the emotions from those events, and you're putting the brakes on. And that's uncomfortable. And you got to stay conscious, and it takes an enormous amount of energy. And you're no longer signaling the same genes and producing the same hormones. And your body is no longer being influenced by your mind in the same way. And sometimes the mind is the biggest enemy to the body. And you're inhibiting that process. And the body, which has become the mind, wants its way. And it's uncomfortable to change. And you got to be able to be greater than that to truly change. And everybody that's changed has come up against that feeling. And they almost make the same choice, and they don't. And they're so glad that they didn't. And it takes an enormous amount of energy and awareness to do that. So as the old self deconstructs, because you have the free will to decide who you want to be on a moment-to-moment basis. And if your life isn't changing and you want to change your life, you got to change. And now you are playing the game, and you are now saying, this personality, this person that I've become, I'm in the habit of being it, and I want to become somebody else. And the more you learn about love, the more you learn about life, the more you learn about possibility and potential, the more you become aware of it, there are more possibilities, and knowledge is the thing that gives us that. And so the old self is a memory, like another lifetime. Like, you can remember it, but you're no longer interested in it any longer because it no longer defines you. How many people understand what I'm talking about? So then the biological death of the old self is crossing a river of change, and you got to stay with it long enough to become somebody else. And you think it's about wealth, you think it's about health, it's about who you become. The people who become somebody else, they see dramatic changes in their health and in their lives. And they can't find the words to be able to explain it. But it's practical, though. If you truly want to change your life, you have to change yourself. You would have to be conscious of your thoughts and aware of your actions and familiar with those emotions, and you would never fall from grace. And if you did, you would stop and self-correct. If you truly were interested in evolution, and if you said to me, I lost it because of that person, I'd say to you, you're back to the unconscious program of allowing your environment to control how you feel and think. You got two choices. Stay there for another 6 hours, or pause and change your energy. Change your energy and get back to the emotions of your future and the feelings of your future. It's a much better place to be. Reason this with me. You could have a great meditation and condition your body just like you did into the future. You come back to your senses and you return back to the same old self, romance in the past again. You're going to weigh that 50-minute, 1-hour meditation against the rest of the day back to you. You got to start practicing. We have to start doing it with our eyes open. And the thought of who we want to become should produce the feeling of it instantaneously. In other words, the thought of your future should produce the feeling that it already happened instead of the feeling of lack because it hasn't happened. How many people understand that? And the people who do this well, they condition their body into the future. And they say, I don't know how it happened. It's like my body was led right to the event. And your body's going to follow your mind to an unknown, just like it follows your mind to the toilet every morning. But instead of it being the known, it's going to be the unknown. That's where your attention and your energy has been. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, what you eat. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I've seen it in all ways. So then the thought of our future, if we're doing this properly, should produce the feeling that it already happened. If the thought of your future produces the lack that it hasn't happened, you're still in your past, and nothing is going to change. And it would make sense then that you would want to get that heart open on a regular basis so that you can feel the emotions of your future before it happens. I'm telling you, there is a lot of biology that changes in you. And you do it enough times, you become that person. The thought of it then produces the feeling that it's already happened. That's how you know you're getting close, independent of what's going on in your life. That's when you're mastering yourself and mastering your life.
Rule number 4, don't live emotion, feel it.
I have sat in meditations and out of nowhere I had the most icky, so familiar but so foreign feeling move through me that it was, I don't know, I never saw it coming. I didn't know what it was. And all I did was, instead of run and turn on my cell phone or lay down or quit, I was curious if there was something on the other side of it. So if I stayed present with it and felt it, it was an energy, and that energy is a frequency, and that frequency carries information, or the emotion has a memory, however you want to say it. And so you have to pass through the valley of the shadow of darkness many times to find the light. And I have sat with my body, curious to wonder if there's anything on the other side of this emotion. And if I stayed present with it and felt it, it would turn into something else in time. And so then, think about it. You know, we have different sensations that our body experiences. You may feel like a tightening in your throat and your respiratory rate going up and kind of flush and your heart fluttering, and you may be feeling anxious. But all of those sensations that the body is recording, your interpretation of it is anxiety or being anxious. So the sensations then, the cumulative sensations, as information, we call it an emotion. So the moment we name it, it's anxiety, but those sensations that come up for the body is information. So people then sitting in the presence of that information and allowing you to experience it fully will cause you to move through it. Now for me, I'm all about this. If it's a familiar feeling, more than likely I'm back in some unconscious program, because the emotion is driving certain behaviors, certain habits, certain thoughts. Now, that doesn't mean that people can't go through grieving processes, but I do believe that that process for some people becomes a way for them to get attention and to get things in their life that they need, and they use it in a way that becomes part of their identity, and they do that unconsciously. And so for me, I would say then, what greater piece of knowledge could I learn about grief or about myself that I would want to apply to evolve my experience of it and see if there's something on the other side of it? So we look for those answers then, and we build a model. And for example, people grieve a lot for people that die. And I totally get it. But if you had a greater understanding of death, you may not have a grief for that long, because you would say, my goodness, if I truly love this person, if you passed this plane and you saw someone you loved walking around suffering, what would you say to them after a period of time? Hey, if you love me, live your life. I'm going on, go, enjoy. So I always look, what is my limited belief about something, and could I learn to expand my awareness of what's possible? So if you feel the grief, stay present with it. And see, by staying present with it, if there's something on the other side of it. Sit with it long enough. I've had so many dark nights. I've sat with it until it turned into something else. I just was curious. I didn't want anything out there to do it. I wanted to do it. And when it matters the most is when it's the hardest. That's what I know.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, take your power back.
What's emerging in the world now because of information is teaching people that there are other possibilities that they were unconscious to, and you don't need an authority any longer. You don't need a priest. You don't need a governor. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a doctor to gain information any longer. Information is available, but the question is, what will you do with it? So if you give people sound scientific information, And science is the language of mysticism. And you combine quantum physics with neuroscience and neuroendocrinology and psychoneuroimmunology and epigenetics and electromagnetism and make it simple. And don't talk about tradition or religion or culture. That's going to divide an audience, but bring the model of science in. If that person can reason and understand what they're doing with that information and why they're doing it, then the side effect of how they're doing it is going to get easier. And now the application becomes essential. So what we're seeing is this emergent consciousness where people are taking their power back and not relying on anyone or anything for their own personal change or transformation. And I think that when you get enough people doing it, emergence in biology is a group of birds all moving in the same direction, of a school of fish all moving. The appearance is a larger organism. They're behaving in the exact same way. There's no leader. When you study that in biology, everybody's leading. So how are we going to change the world? It's not one person, not one consciousness. It's a collective consciousness. And the research says that collective networks of observers determine reality. Get enough people believing in possibility, sooner or later, someone's going to run into that experience. And you need one. And once you know it's possible, then other people will start doing it as well, just like the 4-minute mile. So in the world right now, I think we're seeing a breaking down of so many conventions, whether it's religion or medicine or the environment or journalism. Everything's falling apart right now because it can't sustain itself, because no organisms in nature live in this kind of abusive competition. Organisms survive in cooperation and connection and communion. Keep people in fear, keep them angry, keep them in pain, keep them all those survival emotions. You'll never have community. You bring people into an elevated emotional state, something innate in the human species says we're empathic to one another, we celebrate one another, we want to get along with one another, we want to cooperate, we want to resolve issues together. That's who we are when we're not living in stress and survival.
Rule number 6, live in a state of gratitude.
If you think about gratitude, when you receive something favorable or you just receive something favorable, if something's happening to you or something just happened to you that you are excited about, you feel grateful. So the emotional signature of gratitude means that it's already happened or something wonderful is happening to you. Now, the body is so objective that it does not know the difference between a real life experience that's creating that emotion and that emotion that you're fabricating by thought alone. So the body's believing it's living in an environmental condition that's favorable to you. And we only accept, believe, and surrender to thoughts that are equal to our emotional state. So in the state of gratitude, your body is more prone to be programmed through its autonomic nervous system into a different destiny. And the research that we've done on our research team shows that just 4 days of feeling gratitude can strengthen your immune system by 50% by releasing an immunoglobulin called immunoglobulin A, which is the body's primary defense against bacteria and viruses. It's better than any flu shot, and it's the body's natural capacity. So when we trade anger and frustration and fear and anxiety and pain and suffering and guilt for an elevated emotion, the autonomic nervous system starts to regulate back into homeostasis and balance. And of course, stress is when the autonomic nervous system is knocked out of homeostasis and balance. It's dysregulation. So we teach people how to give thanks for the things that they create in their life actually before it happens. And when we do that properly, we start to see measurable changes in the person's body and measurable changes in their energy and ultimately measurable changes in their life. So the concept of presence is such an important concept because I think that paying attention is being present, and it's a skill just like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And I think we know when people are present with us in our lives is because they're paying attention to us, and we know when they're not present with us because they're not paying attention. Well, where you place your attention is where you place your energy, bottom line. So if you're thinking about what's going to happen in the next moment or what's going to happen in a day, or you're reviewing something that happened 3 days ago, you're placing your attention in some future scenario or some past memory. And we siphon energy out of the present moment, and we don't have available energy then to really begin to create an outcome in our lives. But if we're truly present and we're relaxed and poised in the present moment, if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, then you have a lot of energy in the present moment to execute, a lot of energy in the present moment to make decisions. The more you do this, the more you experience those moments of flow, the synchronicities, the serendipities, the opportunities, the coincidences, because there's a lot of power in the present moment. So one of the key elements in the creative process is teaching people how to relax into the present moment. So if a person is thinking about their problems, and those problems are memories that are etched in their brain that are connected to certain people and objects and things at certain times and places, the moment they think about their problems, say first thing in the morning when they wake up, if you believe your thoughts have something to do with your destiny and your brain is a record of the past, the moment you remember your problems, you're thinking in the past. And because every problem has an emotion associated because you experience it, the moment you feel unhappy, now your body's in the past. So thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body. And how we think and how we feel creates our state of being. So most people unconsciously start their day with their entire state of being biologically in the past. And again, the body's so objective, it doesn't know the difference between the real life experience and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. So that past, that familiar past, is called the known. And if you wake up in the morning and you start thinking about the predictable future and the people you have to see and the places you have to go and the things you have to do in your routine, predictable life, the same exact thing happens. You're imagining that future scenario that's already known to you, and you're anticipating the feeling of that outcome. So that becomes, the predictable future becomes the known as well. So if the familiar past is the known and the predictable future is the known, there's only one place where the unknown exists, and that's the sweet spot of the generous present moment. And teaching people how to create from the present moment is what begins to produce the magic and the changes that take place in their lives.
Rule number 7, change yourself first.
In order to create a new future, to change something in your life, nothing changes in your life until you change. That's the story, right? So then the question is, okay, in order for me to create something new, I'm going to have to combine a clear intention. That's a function of the brain and the mind. That's a process that you can get better at. And you got to combine that with an elevated emotion. And that means then you can't wait for your healing to feel grateful. You can't wait for your new relationship to feel love. You can't wait for your wealth to feel abundance. You know, that's the old model of reality of cause and effect. In fact, we're going to teach people actually how to feel the emotion before it happens. And when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, that's going to require your heart to move into balance and move into order. And it turns out that's a skill too that you can practice. So then when you combine those two elements, so that clear intention with the elevated emotion, and you can sustain that for a period of time, the coherence in the brain, the coherence in the heart actually act like a Wi-Fi signal. You're starting to put out a broadband spectrum of frequency and energy that causes you to feel connected to something. And now you're no longer trying to get something done or waiting for something in your outer world to change to take away the emptiness or lack you're feeling because you don't have the experience yet. If people can actually feel the feelings of the emotions before the experience happens, they wouldn't be looking for it because they would feel like it already happened, right? So we teach people how to sustain these states. And if they can, the side effect of that is that you start seeing synchronicities in your life, those serendipities, those coincidences, those opportunities that you're no longer going anywhere to get them. And you're not trying to control the outcome or force the outcome or fight for the outcome or predict the outcome or compete for it. That's when we're matter trying to change matter. When you synchronize your energy to a possibility in your life and you start seeing those synchronicities in your life, now when you start seeing those opportunities occurring, you're just going to start paying attention to what you've been doing and do more of it. And you go then from being the victim of your life to being the creator of your life. And the cool part about it is you don't have to go anywhere to get it. Somehow, out of nowhere, it seems to come to you. And those moments are moments of awakening. So the formula really is about combining quantum physics with neuroscience, with neuroendocrinology, with psychoneuroimmunology, with electromagnetism, epigenetics, all of these different branches of science to build a model to show people that you actually can be the creator of your life.
Rule number 8, take care of yourself.
I travel around the world and I have the opportunity to talk to all kinds of people. And one of the things that, independent of people's beliefs, political beliefs, religious beliefs, whatever, there seems to be a common thread that people feel like something's not right. And I think when you get to a point where you realize that no healthcare plan, no government, no religion is going to take care of you, then who is going to take care of you? And the answer is you, right? So my interest is to give people the tools and the understanding that they could heal their body, that they could create a better life for themselves, that they could overcome past traumas and scars that were created even as early as childhood that tend to be unconscious programs that keep them repeating the same, scenarios in their life, to teach people how to induce mystical experiences so that it changes the frame of the way they look at reality. And so what an amazing time in history to be alive, because consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention, and paying attention is noticing. So if a person lives a life, as an example, and is diagnosed with a health condition, what they're conscious of is just a certain number of choices that they could make based on the past, based on tradition, based on what's worked for normal or natural. But what happens when that person has done the chemotherapy, has done the surgery, has done the radiation, has done the vegan diet, has done the gluten-free diet, has done the ketogenic diet, has done all the things, all the exercise, and they still have the same health condition? It begs the question, if our personality creates our personal reality, and our personality is made up of how we think, how we act, and how we feel, then the present personality who's listening to this podcast has created the present personal reality called their life. Not their ex, not their parents, not their culture. They create their life. So the fundamental question is, if I want to change my life, then that means that I have to change, or nothing changes in my life until I change, right? So the person who's done all these treatments and still faced with a health condition, this is just an example, all of a sudden says, there's got to be another way. There's got to be something else. And so knowledge, information, when we learn knowledge, when we learn information, we make new connections in our brain. That's what learning is. We're forging synaptic connections. But that philosophical, theoretical, intellectual information is void of experience. Someone who takes that knowledge and applies it and personalizes, demonstrates it, initiates that knowledge, is now interested in the truth of the experience of that information. So the person then who becomes conscious that they could actually heal themselves by changing the way they think, the way they act, the way they feel. If I truly go into the experiment of no longer thinking the same way, no longer acting the same way, no longer feeling the same way, and I start thinking about what thoughts I do want to fire and wire in my brain, and if I do it with intention and attention, I'll begin to install neurological hardware. Keep doing it, and it becomes like a software program. It becomes a new voice in your head that goes from I can't to I can. No magic there. If you said, how would greatness live today? What would love look like today? What would be a greater expression of myself in the things that I do? Turns out if you close your eyes and you rehearse in your mind how you're going to be in any aspect of your day, if you're truly present, the brain doesn't know the difference between the inward experience of what you're imagining and the outer real experience. The brain looks like you've already done it. The brain looks like it's already experienced it. Now, do that enough times, the hardware becomes a software program, and you start behaving like a different person.
Super athletes do this.
This
all
is
the time.
musicians, athletes, dancers, everybody who's good at something is always rehearsing in their mind. That rehearsal is just as important as the physical demonstration. It's priming the brain, because the brain is a record of the past. Now you're actually making it a map to the future. You're installing circuits to use. If you said, God, I lived my whole life in guilt. I didn't know it was guilt, in shame or unworthiness, and self-doubt, insecurity, fear. And all of a sudden, you're looking at that emotion. You understand that emotion is actually downregulating genes and creating disease. You figure that out. You read about it. It makes sense. Then all of the hatred, all the anger, all the bitterness you have to someone or something in your past is keeping you connected to the past. So you'd say, can I teach my body emotionally what a new future could feel like before it happens? Not waiting for your wealth to feel abundance, or waiting for your relationship to feel love, or waiting for your healing to feel gratitude. That's the old model of reality of cause and effect. This is about causing an effect. Turns out if you can elevate your emotional state and you can sustain that emotional state, your body's so objective that it doesn't know the difference between a real life experience that's creating that emotion and that emotion that you're creating by thought alone. Your body's actually believing it's living in a new reality, a new environment. Now, the environment signals the gene. The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. That person is actually signaling genes ahead of the environment. Genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of the body. The expression of proteins is the expression of life. Okay. Every day the person practices going from the old self to the new self. This is what's happening in the world right now. As they start to change and they start unfiring and unwiring, and they stop conditioning the body emotionally to the past and practice this, they emerge as a new personality. They become somebody else. And like magic, the disease exists in the old person and there's somebody else. Now here's where consciousness comes in. That person comes to a workshop and they stand on the stage in front of 1,500 people and they tell their story. And everybody in that audience is leaning in. Why? Because they're looking at truth. They're looking at the example.
Someone who just got healed from a chronic...
I'm talking about stage 4 cancers. I'm talking about Parkinson's disease. I'm talking about rare genetic disorders. And now the person in the audience is becoming conscious of a possibility that they were once unconscious to. And when they see that's possible, it's a 4-minute mile. I mean, 4-minute mile, nobody thought anybody could break a mile in under 4 minutes. They said it was biologically and physiologically impossible. 1,400 people have done it already. So like, this is the 4-minute mile. It was piercing through a limitation, a level of unconsciousness. And now that's a footprint in the quantum field. But in 3-dimensional reality, you're looking at that person, and they look no different than anybody else. And the person says, if that person can do it, I can do it as well.
Rule number 9, balance your ego.
I think the ego is something that is healthy when it's in balance. Like if I have a bonfire in my backyard and the flames are getting a little bit too big and there's ashes and sparks flying off the bonfire, your ego says, David, step back. You know, it's preservational, wants to take care of the body. If we're hiking on a cliff and we come to a very narrow path and it's a 1,000-foot drop, your ego's going to say, stay close to the wall. Don't go out to the edge. You could be injured and be hurt. So the ego has a function to really, in a sense, be analytical and weigh what we know against what we don't know, and it's healthy. The problem is when it's driven by the hormones of stress, and stress is when your body is knocked out of balance, it's knocked out of order. That state actually causes you to be altered, and there'll always be a gap between the way things appear or the way you appear and the way things really are. You're in an altered state. Now, for the short term, that's great. All organisms can tolerate that. But if you keep doing that for an extended period of time, the arousal that's created from the stress hormones actually causes the analytical mind all of a sudden to go into overdrive. So now the endorsement of the ego becomes enhanced and we become selfish.
That's what it does. It causes us to be self-indulgent, to be self-centered, to be self-important, to be self-aggrandizing, to be full of self-pity, because in stress, there's only one thing that's important when you're in survival, and that's you. And so all of our attention goes on our body, all of our attention goes on all the elements in our environment, and we become very preoccupied with time. Now, when we're in balance and there's order in the autonomic nervous system, there's health. And if stress is when you move out of balance, autonomic dysregulation, then you are altered from wholeness. You are separate from everyone and everything in your life, and you tend to trust less. It's not a time to open your heart in the jungle. The survival gene is switched on. You don't communicate very well. You're looking at how you can get to where you need to be or accomplish what you need to do first. And you got to be there first and compete, because this is all driven by those stress hormones. So the ego becomes out of balance. Now, here's the cool part about all of this. When people are driven by those stress hormones and they don't know how to change it, they don't know how to self-regulate. Again, it's not that you react. The question is, how long are you going to react? If they don't know how to do that, the problem with most people is they start analyzing their life within the emotion that's disturbing them. Now, emotions are a record of the past. So what we see on brain scans over and over again, when you start overanalyzing and overthinking in a selfish way, 100% of the time, you'll make your brain worse. And that will have dramatic effects on your body. So when the heart is racing because it's pumping blood, but you're sitting on a Zoom call and you're smiling and you're looking at that person on a Zoom call and you're thinking about ways to murder them, you're producing those chemicals, but you're not running and you're not fighting and you're not hiding. So what happens is the heart is pumping against a very closed system, and it moves out of order, it moves out of balance. And now the autonomic nervous system, which controls and coordinates all other systems in your body, is out of balance, and that dysregulation causes disease. So then the fundamental question is, okay, can I trade fear? Can I trade anger? Can I trade competition? Can I trade frustration, resentment, impatience, hostility, hopelessness, powerlessness, whatever, anxiety, for an elevated emotion? Can I learn how to dial down those stress hormones and practice feeling elevated emotions? Turns out you can do that. Now, the real question is, when you're in your heart, you're not so selfish. In fact, when there's a change in blood flow to the heart and oxytocin and nitric oxide is released, you tend to want to give. You tend to want to consider the whole. And you lead with your heart. You're not separate from anybody. You're functioning as a community. So I think then that our future as human beings is that we have to be able to live in an elevated state in our hearts. And if we fall from grace back into those survival emotions, the key is to be able to self-regulate and get so good at it in your meditation with your eyes closed, so good at it that you can do it with your eyes open. Now, that's when the game becomes really, really important. So when people do the work and they do their meditations and they come up against themselves, gosh, I want them to. I want them to come up against their fear in the week-long workshops. I want them to come up against their impatience. I want all those thoughts that come up that say, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, it's my ex's fault, it's my boss's fault. I want those thoughts to be right in their face, and I want to give them tools to let them know that right on the other side of that thought, right on the other side of that propensity to want to get up and quit, right on the other side of that emotion that's keeping them connected to the past, if they're willing to sit in the fire, to sit with themselves, and instead of getting up and quitting on themselves, learn how to self-regulate and create brain and heart coherence, I guarantee you, every time they go a little further and they produce those victories add up. So what's the side effect of that? You return back to your life and you don't need jerk as much. Why? Because you just overcame some part of your aggression and anger by sitting with your body and like training an animal, training a dog, I don't know, training the servant to be present, to be greater than the body as the mind, to execute a will that's greater than those unconscious programs. And what we found out is when people actually apply some type of formula to be able to do this,
Every time they bring the body back into the present moment, it starts liberating energy. So there goes the frustration. There goes the impatience. And all of a sudden, the unknown, which tends to be such a scary place for most people, is the present moment. You see the side effect of that is the person's more present. They're less preoccupied with all the things that people spend most of their attention on. Now, so you overcome the ego, you overcome the personality. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just you got to be able to lay it down. And as you temper your body and your mind, the ego tends to be less selfish and more selfless. And then the side effect of that is that then if I say, hey, look at David, he's actually doing it, I'm going to try it too because he's doing it. And the research in neuroscience says you hang out with people that do things, your brain synchronizes and you start doing those same things. It's called an emergence. Emergence. That's the birds all moving in the same direction. It's a school of fish moving as one mind and one heart. If you study that, you think there's one leader, like that everybody's following a leader, like a top-down phenomenon. It's actually wrong. It's a bottom-up phenomenon. Everybody's leading. So the way we change the world then is that you work on yourself, I'll work on myself. We get to show up and bring our best. And when we're not at our best, we excuse ourselves, get back to that state, and we present ourselves back to the world. And I think this is such a great time in history where people really need some tools to be able to cope with all the challenges in the world.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is follow your instincts.
I think there's this feeling that we all have that never seems to go away. And it's an intuition, it's an instinct that tells us that there's more to reality than this dream. And I think that people come to this work for that feeling. And I think that we're greater than we think, more powerful than we know, more unlimited than we could ever dream. And my passion, my interest is to take science and combine quantum physics with neuroscience, with neuroendocrinology, with psychoneuroimmunology, with epigenetics, electromagnetism. And I think science is that language to demystify the mystical and to build models of understanding from a theoretical and intellectual knowledge-based analytical perspective. But that knowledge void of experience is philosophy. But if you can teach people how to practically apply it, to personalize it, to demonstrate it, to initiate that knowledge and do something with it, if they can get their behaviors to match their intentions or their actions equal to their thoughts, if they get their mind and body working together, they're going to have an experience, right? And it turns out that learning information makes connections in the brain, but experience enriches those connections. Well, the moment those neurons string into place, there's a biological change that takes place in the brain. Another part of the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called an emotion. And the moment you feel successful, the moment you feel empowered, the moment you feel unlimited, I think now you're teaching your body chemically to understand what your mind is intellectually understood. So knowledge is for the mind and experiences for the body. And so what we learned in this whole process of transformation is that the more people understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, the how gets easier. So when the experience then causes them to embody the truth of that philosophy, it's no longer theoretical, it's experiential and it's visceral. So the experience then produces a strong emotion, and the emotion then is what is the information coming back to the body that begins to select and instruct new genes. And we've measured this on people that they could actually change their gene expression in 3 or 4 days by doing this. Now, if you've done it once, it means you got to be able to do it again, right? So anybody who's serious about their own personal growth and evolution, the replication of any experience will begin to both neurologically and chemically condition the mind and body to work as one. So when you've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your conscious mind, now it's innate in you, it's implicit, it's automatic, it's second nature, it's easy. You've become the knowledge. And in a sense, you've mastered that knowledge and you're in a new state of being. So my interest is demystify that process so that people have within their reach all the tools begin to apply it to their lives.